Posted by you/throw_ra_cow life. So, I, 27F, was supposed to be married in July, but 2 months ago, I came home from a work trip to find my ex-fiancé in bed with my best friend's sister. I kicked him out, canceled the wedding, and warned him that I would get rid of his stuff if he didn't come to get it. Weeks later, I dumped everything on the curb with a free sign, sold, donated, or dumped everything he had given me, and pawned the ring. I blocked him everywhere. I called the cops on him when he showed up, after I gave his stuff away, banging on my door, called him again when he turned up at my workplace and made a scene, and called him on his family when they showed up en masse to plead his case. I didn't go scorched earth on my ex-best friend's sister, but I did tell her husband that I caught her in bed with my ex. Last I heard, she had been kicked out of the house and was back living with her parents. My ex-best friend tried to talk me into giving them both a chance to explain, excuse me, then got angry at me for ruining her sister's relationship and called me petty and cold-hearted. So, I kicked her to the curb too. I don't want dishonest people who are blasé about betrayal in my life. This encounter no doubt simmered under my skin until I unleashed on my parents. Maybe that's why, because it lingered, I was so harsh with them. Last week, I met my parents for dinner. I brought a date with me to the restaurant, hoping his presence would prevent any discussion about my failed engagement. My parents have been pressuring me to work things out with my ex. He's so sorry. I owe it to him to talk to him, to give him 5 minutes to explain himself. She meant nothing to him. He made a mistake. I'm cruel for shutting him out the way I have. How could I call the police on him? How could I do the same to his family? His parents are good people. They didn't deserve to be humiliated like that. He's having a rough time. He's depressed, and everyone is worried about him. He loves me, really loves me. He's learned his lesson. It's time to grow up and forgive him. No, my date's presence didn't stop them from bringing it all up again. I lost my cool. I asked my father if he expected me to give my ex a pass every time he sticks his thing into anything that moves, like he does. I asked my mother how turning a blind eye to her husband's infidelity works for her. How does she hold her head up while having lunch with women who have slept with her husband for years? Is that the kind of man, the kind of life, she wants for me and my sister? For her daughters? I asked if they had any idea of the impact that knowledge had on me and my siblings growing up, knowing that dad was late home from work because he was screwing his secretary, knowing work weekend was code for a dirty weekend with a woman who wasn't our mother. Did they not know why, out of their 4 children, I am the only one who still talks to them? Do they not question why they were not invited to my brother's weddings? Why they have never met either of my brother's wives and children? Do they think my sister's silence is because she's being dramatic and throwing a tantrum? Really? I stood up from the table, congratulated them on the loss of their last remaining child, and told them I hoped their arrogance, willful blindness, and misery would comfort them in their final breaths. Then I left. My date, I should have saved him for a proper occasion rather than using him as an FU to my parents, took me to the nearest bar, let me cry on his shoulder while I proceeded to get wasted, then made sure I got home safely. The next day, he messaged me to see if I was alive and sent a double cheeseburger, large fries, and a large soda over to my apartment. I didn't block my parents, but I haven't heard from them. It's been a week, and I've calmed down enough to feel regret, not for what I said, but because I can picture the looks on their faces when I made my final farewell. I crushed them, hurt them, especially my mother. Despite their faults, and there are many, I love my parents. I don't like knowing I hurt them. I'm feeling a lot of guilt about it. Was I wrong here? Edit. I have yet to read all the comments, but from what I've seen so far, I think some details need to be cleared up. My date knew we were going to have dinner with my parents. He asked me out that morning. I told him my plans for the evening and jokingly asked if he wanted to come along. I didn't expect him to say yes. I then informed him I wasn't serious and that it would probably be a little uncomfortable, and he replied that if needed, he could post bail. So, there you go. He did not enter that restaurant unaware of potential drama. Edit. The people mentioned in my post are not the only people in my life. I have my siblings, they didn't cut me off. My sister flew in to be with me just days after I discovered the cheating. And I have good friends. Friends who helped me pack up my ex's things and helped me move it all down to the curb. One friend found me a guy who paid a fair price for the engagement ring. I only mentioned my ex-BFF, etc., because how they acted and what they were saying contributed to all those buried feelings, which had been dormant for years, coming out when they did, in the way they did. Commenter. Not the jerk, so many people are saying, be the bigger person, but that's just straight up BS. They want you to turn a blind eye to betrayal, but no, some of us find that to be a complete deal breaker. I'm with you 100%, cut them all out of your life because what's more important is your mental well-being, not giving closure or forgiveness to those who hurt you. As for your parents, they made their choices, and now they have to live with the consequences of their crappy actions. Ops response. I could maybe be the bigger person if he got me a burrito instead of the taco I wanted. But cheating on me in my apartment, in my bed? Screw off and take your filthy bum out with the other piece of trash. Update 6 months later. It's been a hot minute since I was here last. Life has been busy, work has been busy, and updating Reddit wasn't on my mind. Apologies to all those who continue to send messages asking for an update. I figure better late than never. Where to start? First, a thank you to all who replied to my post. I tried to read every comment, and though I didn't post for the validation most of you gave, receiving it did lighten the load a little bit. It didn't take away the guilt I carried, but I was able to work through that and see that, although my timing was off, what I said was absolutely necessary. Thank you, too, to those who sent me private messages rather than posting on the main thread. Reading your own stories of a similar upbringing and conversing with you has helped me understand that my childhood and teen years were traumatic and left wounds I'd never addressed until all this came about. One more shout out to those who sent harassing messages about my choices. To the people who preached about the sanctity of marriage and how men are basic creatures with basic needs. To those who tried to school me on how to be a woman who needs to learn to do her duty by allowing a man his vices and claimed it was all my fault for not supporting my ex in his time of need. Special shout out to the men who offered to teach me how to be submissive and learn my place in this world. And last but not least, to the sweet little chicken nugget who said my reaction was proof that I'm a serial cheater and my ex should have used a cattle prod on my happy place. It must have been tough for all of you when your women left. Big props to those ladies for escaping a life of misery with you. Now for what has happened since. My mother left my father not long after my post, maybe a couple of weeks later. She showed up at my apartment one night with her luggage. I can't explain how broken and pitiful she was. I brought her inside, held her, and my heart broke for her. I realized then that she had no one to turn to, absolutely no one. No family, no friends. I can't help but wonder if she had been alone for all the years of her marriage, and if one of my siblings or I had said something sooner, would she have found the courage to leave my father then? I had never seen my mother, usually so dignified and unruffled, look so broken. It shocked me to see her that way. I was so worried that I made her sleep in my bed with me. I called my siblings, and within days, they all came to show support and love. Soon it was me, my mother, and my sister sleeping in my bed. It was good for her to see that her children still cared. Because we did care, we did love her. It was the situation that my siblings had distanced themselves from. At first, my mother stayed with me. She was having a hard time, years of humiliation, shame, and guilt ate at her. I was worried about her state of mind and didn't like leaving her alone. I couldn't take time off work to be with her every second of the day, so I took her to the shelter, and we got her a dog. My thinking was that if she had something to take care of, it would distract her from dark thoughts. I was hoping for a puppy because they're playful and would keep her busy, but she fell in love with a 5-year-old mixed breed, and he fell right back. He's a goof. We don't know how it happened, but we woke up one night to him howling because he had somehow wedged his head between the spindles on the stairs. His whole head. We had to call the fire department to rescue him. Of course, my mother didn't think he was at fault, and she now refers to him as her baby. He adores my mother, though. My oldest brother rearranged some things and moved her across the country to live with him and his family. He thought she would do better if there was no chance of her running into dad or one of his many women. He found her a therapist, and that seems to be helping. She's loving being a grandmother, and by all reports, she's an indulgent one. She has a separate in-law suite, so she gets to see the grandkids every day. My brother tells me that when the kids go missing, they can now be found at grandma's. My dad is, well, my dad. He doesn't lack for company. Not long after my mother moved across the country, I had dinner with him where he introduced me to the new woman in his life. I reminded them both that I knew exactly who she was, considering she had called my mother her best friend for my entire life. Cue another awkward dinner. My dad tried to make it as pleasant as he could, but whenever she spoke to me, I brought up memories from my childhood of her spending time with our family and asked if she was sleeping with my father back then. The next day, he called to tell me how disappointed he was with me. I felt it was only fair to share my own disappointments. We argued for a bit. He tried to downplay all he had done over the years, attempting to play the victim of his own actions. I ended up cutting the conversation short and blocking him. It was just over a month ago when he showed up at my door. I wouldn't let him in, and I'm sure that rattled him. He told me he didn't want to lose me too. Say what you want about him, but he is my dad. I love him. I don't want to lose him either. He promised he wouldn't force me to interact with any of his women. So far, we've had a couple of pleasant outings, and they've gone well. I'm cautiously hopeful that we can continue to be in each other's lives. As for me, well, I took the advice some of you gave me and started therapy. It's humbling to realize that, though you may think you're fine, you're actually not. It's been almost unbearable to face all that history, and and excruciatingly painful to dig through it all. After some sessions, all I want to do is head to the nearest bar and drink until I forget everything I just went through to figure out where it all started and why I am the way I am. I think therapy is one of the most difficult things I've ever done. I don't know how some of you have been doing it for as long as you have. I also don't know why you do it so willingly. I must be crazy for listening to all you crazies in the first place. But it is helping. Now, for the update most of you want. I can't even tell you how many messages I've received from people wanting to know about him. It was almost like you all were saying, "Girl, we don't care about whatever life crisis you're going through, just tell us about the date." Well, I haven't replied to any of those queries because my post wasn't about him. But now, I figure in a roundabout way, I owe you something because you all played a part in where we are today. I won't give a rundown of everything that's happened between us, but I will share a few things. He contacted me after seeing a podcast on YouTube. He sent me a link with a query, "Is this you?" To say I was mortified would be an understatement. My embarrassment kept me from replying to him. I was so deep in it that I didn't even bother to read the messages he sent me over the next couple of weeks. When I finally did, I found a whole heap of screenshots of people's comments. I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm guessing you don't need me to tell you the contents of those comments. I eventually got back to him. It was difficult for us to find time to see each other. As I mentioned earlier, my life, both personal and professional, has been incredibly busy. He also has his own life and work. We were only able to meet up for coffee a couple of times, and I didn't think we were going to be able to grow a friendship, let alone anything beyond that. But I've since learned that he is tenacious and persistent, like a dog with a bone. He kept at it until we finally found time for a second date. That date went well and led to another, then another. Eventually, he introduced me to the two most important people in his life, his grandparents. His grandfather carves little wooden figurines, and I've since acquired a flock of wooden birds. His grandmother thinks I'm too skinny and feeds me whenever I see her, usually sending me home with food. He gets along with my sister and brothers. He came with me to visit my mother on her birthday and met them all. He was very gracious with her. I had him saved on my phone as Cheeseburger. He took issue with that because he bought me a double cheeseburger, so I started calling him Double Cheese, and then shortened it to DC. He's still saved in my phone as Cheeseburger. He's an undercover Swiftie, and I don't quite know what to do with that. I don't have anything against Taylor Swift, but I sure didn't expect him to love her. He used his little sister and niece's cover for his Taylor Swift obsession, now he uses me. I'm fine with being so used. Commenter. I was hoping to hear something about the cheating ex, like he's homeless and lost his job, lol. Ops response. He's not even a blip on my radar.